The America's Cup World Series, which concluded on Saturday, was determined not by who could sail the fastest, not by who could do a dry lap, not by the slickest in foiling tacks and jibes, not by the best match racer, but by who was able to stay or get foiling in the lightest of wind speeds. In the second leg of the final race of the America's Cup World Series, a long chase began after Emirates Team New Zealand dropped off her foils, squeezing to get around Mark 1, allowing Spithill and Bruni to extend their already handy lead at Mark 1 from 250 meters to 800 meters. "We're just going to shoot it," Kiwi skipper Peter Burling said to his crew as he squeezed the AC-75 around the mark, sailing at just 10 knots, off the foils, compared to Francesco Bruni's foiling 28 knots just 30 seconds earlier. "Let's jibe," he said 30 seconds later, after which the boat speed halved to a pedestrian 5 knots. "It's going to be a real horror race from here, fellas," he said, for the benefit of those crew who could not see, as the Kiwis completed the jibe, still sailing at sub-10 knots as the race leader, Luna Rossa, faded into the distance, still foiling fast. "I don't think we'd have got out of it the other way either, by tacking," he added to the pregnant pause-ridden onboard comms dialogue, which featured a tactical and performance dialogue amongst the 5 members of the ETNZ afterguard. In the commentary booth, Nathan Outeridge, Burling's longtime sailing rival in 2 Olympics, and the 2017 America's Cup, looked at the apparently hopeless situation and declared, "This could all change inside 30 seconds. It proved to be a prescient comment. About half a minute later, the Kiwis got the first sniff of an increase in breeze, lifting to 8 knots, the first time in the race they'd had the same as the Italians, who'd been sliding away at 30 knots, and sailing at 4 times the wind speed. Although Luna Rossa had an impressive speed through the water, the real story lay in the VMG, velocity made good, or speed directly towards the next mark, a navigational calculation spat out by the performance and navigation computers. Despite their impressive 28 to 30 knots of speed through the water, the Italians were only making an effective speed of 7 knots in the direction of the leeward mark. Their opponents, still at the top end of the course, were limping along, off their foils, at just 6 knots bow speed, but making only 1 to 2 knots VMG. Spithill jibed, hitting 31 knots and 8 knots of breeze and briefly getting his VMG up to 15 knots, through the jibe, before handing the helm over to his alternate helmsman Francesco Bruni. As Bruni exited the jibe, Luna Rossa's boat speed dropped to 16 knots as the race leader dropped off the foils, with a lead of 805 meters. Almost a kilometer behind, the Kiwis' boat speed had just cracked double digits but were still 4 knots slower than the Italians. The telling number was in the VMG, with Bruni making just 1 knot VMG and Burling 0 knots, meaning he was making no progress at all toward the bottom mark, and Bruni only fractionally. The chase was on. Despite now sailing in exactly the same 7 knots of breeze, albeit with a 10-degree difference in direction, the Kiwis began accelerating and sailing faster than Luna Rossa. Burling and friends were first onto their foils, lifting off at 20 knots of boat speed, and then jibing at 28 knots in just 8 knots of breeze. Luna Rossa's boat speed had picked up to a meager 13 knots, but an improvement on the 10 knots they were achieving a minute earlier. Once up on foils, the New Zealanders were away, briefly outstripping their chase boat as they quickly accelerated to 30 knots in just 8 knots of wind. When the Italians were overtaken, or rather Emirates Team New Zealand crossed their course, the Kiwis were making 14 knots VMG compared to the Italians' 0 knots VMG, despite Luna Rossa sailing in the stronger 10 knots of breeze. The Kiwis relentlessly continued the Italian paddy-whacking as Burling extended their lead by a further 300 meters at Mark 2. The dramatic Leg 2 turnaround in the final race of the ACWS underlined the unique sailing dynamics of the AC-75, and actually determined the winner of the Prada ACWS trophy. This is the Sailing World on Water, December 25, 2020. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hi, this is Ken Reed, and I'm here in Auckland, New Zealand with the Prada 36th America's Cup. I'm here on behalf of North Sails first and foremost, and I'm one of the commentators for the World feed. My role at North Sails is I'm the president of North Sails and kind of roving, do a little bit of everything person. Going from a sailor to a commentator I think is a reasonably natural transition. Probably as you get older, you just have to look at these boats and to see the athletes and the strength and finesse of the athletes now. And listen, I wouldn't trade my cup experiences as a sailor for anything in the world. If you want to stay in the sport kind of finds different ways to keep you involved. And for me, I got lucky, and being involved on the TV side is actually terrific. What excites me most about this edition of the America's Cup is nobody's ever seen boats like this before. Nobody's ever seen speeds like this before. My typical day is very long. I'm up about 5:30 in the morning and have to talk to Europe and North America, try to get a little workout in, and also a little breakfast and a lot of coffee in. Make my way down to the TV compound around 10:30 and ask a bunch of questions. I know a lot of people within all the compounds, in all the teams, so I'll ask some specific questions, and if they can answer and help me out, usually they do. By 1:00, we're in the booth doing our sound checks. By 2:00, we're laying down the first 5 minutes on tape, the first 5 minutes of the show. And from 3 to 6, we do the show. It's a long time in that booth, I can tell you. 3 hours of nonstop talking is not truly natural, but it's very cool. The TV compound is really unglamorous. It's a bunch of containers. It's not until you open the doors of these containers that it is just a world of electronics. It is this crazy world of electronics that, frankly, I know nothing about. But I love showing people around because I think we're all really proud. It's 110 people that work on the TV show that are just exceptionally good at what they do. If you think of it, the environment and the surroundings that we're working in is crazy hard. It's water and it's outdoors and there's helicopters and boats, and it's really the people that do these TV shows are exceptional at what they do. What inspires me? Well, first of all, is just talking about the sport that I love and I've been doing my whole life and I've been fortunate enough to make a living at. But I guess I got some really good advice. Just have fun with it and tell the story. And if people enjoy it, they'll invite you to come back and do it again, I guess. Getting in the booth is fun. There's nothing to be nervous about. We're working with a guy named Stephen McIver, who is the lead commentator, and he kind of runs the show for us. And Nathan Outteridge, Olympic medalist in the 49er class, 2-time skipper for Artemis Racing, one of the best foiling sailors in the world, as a commentator right along with us. And then I understand that we're talking to a range of people watching the broadcast, from never sailed before to absolute best in the game. We need to spread out some of this information over the next 3.5 months. So if we burn up every single topic in the first 3 days, we're in trouble for the rest of the time. The goal is to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Nathan Outteridge, myself, and Stephen McIver sit in a small container full of screens. There is craziness, but somehow, Leon Sefton figures out how to put it all together and get a TV show out of it. And then you can't forget, of course, we have the huge advantage of double gold medalist Shirley Robinson out on the water. And boats are moving so fast. How do we keep up? Well, we don't have to keep up. Shirley's got to keep up. She's trying to go 40 plus knots on the water in this catamaran with this crazy gyro camera on board. So she's got to try to keep up. We watch the TV show like everybody else does. You can't describe what you're seeing. You've got to describe what people at home are seeing. So it's pretty simple. Watch the show and tell people what you think is going on. These speeds are like never ever seen before, both in speed and angle. So they're tighter to the wind and they are fast, super fast. North Sails makes all the sails for 3 of the 4 teams. Southern Spars makes the mast and some structures on 3 of the teams. And Future Fibers makes the cabling for all the teams. The diversity of North Technology Group is shown in the fastest boats in the world. So when you want the fastest boat in the world, everybody knows where to turn. So America's Cup is the biggest brand in our sport, and the trickle down is real, and it's going to trickle into all of our sails. And the winning boat in the America's Cup has had North sails on it since 1983. So that's exciting. That's fun.
Quand le bateau arrive, on a le report de ce qui a été constaté en mer. Après, on découvre des petites choses. Mais au moins, tout ce qui a été constaté en mer, on sait le traiter. On établit une job list et puis on fait vraiment l'état des lieux dans le détail. Et puis on sait exactement, à peu de choses près, combien de temps ça va nous prendre, quelle pièce il va nous falloir changer et dans quel ordre on va dérouler la pellicule pour que ça se passe bien. Au moment où on décide de faire demi-tour, à ce moment-là, on sait que dans les 10 jours qui viennent, il n'y aura pas de fenêtre et on sait que le bateau il va mettre entre 4 et 5 jours pour revenir. Donc ça nous laisse entre 4 et 5 jours pour réparer le bateau. Donc à partir de ce moment-là, on s'organise pour que ça passe dans 4 ou 5 jours. Étant donné qu'il y a eu un impact en mer, ce qui est bien, c'est effectivement de pouvoir rentrer. Pour le coup, on en profite pour tout checker. Donc on n'a pas sorti le seul foil sur lequel il y avait un impact, on a sorti les 2 foils. On n'a pas sorti un seul safran, finalement on a sorti les 2 safrans. On a également sorti la dérive.
On va en plus anticiper ce qui pourrait se reproduire et du coup on a renforcé les foils, on n'a pas juste réparé le patch à l'identique. On travaille aussi sur l'autre foil, parce que c'est pas parce qu'il y en a un qui a cassé, on aurait très bien pu taper quelque chose et endommager l'autre côté. C'est l'idée, normalement on part avec un foil qui devrait être presque 3 fois plus solide dans cette zone-là.
En fait, on a fait un reset des appendices. Parce que ce qu'on veut, c'est quand le bateau part, c'est qu'il soit vraiment à 100%. Dans la semaine, l'objectif, c'est que le bateau soit prêt à repartir à n'importe quel moment. Maintenant, c'est la météo qui décide.
Bonjour à tous, ça y est, je suis rentré de Cape Town en Afrique du Sud où on a pu permettre à Sam et au bateau Initiative Cœur de repartir, même hors course, hein, puisque la règle du Vendée Globe est impitoyable, pas d'escale, pas d'assistance. Mais là, suite à sa collision avec un OFNI, elle n'y pouvait vraiment rien, on n'y pouvait vraiment rien, mais il n'y avait pas d'autre solution que de s'arrêter dans un port pour d'une part réparer la quille qui était très endommagée, d'autre part réparer la structure du bateau, des cloisons qui servent à rigidifier la coque étaient endommagées dans la partie centrale du bateau, autour de la partie où est tenue la quille. Donc c'est un endroit très important et vital pour le bateau. Et puis en plus, étant donné la violence du choc, hein, puisque Sam nous a raconté qu'elle s'était arrêtée net lors de l'impact alors qu'elle allait vite, il fallait sortir le bateau de l'eau et vérifier toutes les pièces qui tiennent la quille, qui permettent aussi à la quille de bouger, la structure du bateau. On a eu plusieurs experts qui ont vérifié la structure du bateau aux ultrasons, à la thermo. Et donc voilà, cette escale était inévitable. Alors ce qui a été incroyable, c'est qu'on a réussi finalement en 8 jours, grâce à une vague de solidarité énorme là-bas aussi, des gens qui nous ont aidés, le chantier de Manuel, Mike qui nous a aidés à tout organiser, à trouver les bonnes personnes, Leroy qui a travaillé nuit et jour avec Sam pour le composite, pour reconstituer la structure endommagée du bateau. Eh bien, grâce à ça, on a pu permettre à Sam de repartir dès lundi dans des conditions météo clémentes qui vont lui permettre aussi de reprendre confiance, de ne pas être tout de suite confronté à du trop mauvais temps et puis de reprendre sa route. Il reste encore tout l'océan Indien, tout l'océan Pacifique et toute la remontée de l'Atlantique. Donc les 2 tiers du parcours, voire plus à parcourir. C'est un gros morceau, mais Sam est heureuse d'y aller pour le projet, pour emmener ce beau bateau qu'on prépare depuis 4 ans maintenant autour du monde, et aussi pour continuer de porter surtout la cause de mécénat chirurgie cardiaque et sauver davantage d'enfants. Là aussi, il y a une vague de solidarité suite à cet arrêt qui a été énorme. Les internautes, les personnes sur Facebook, le partage de nos posts. Enfin voilà, finalement, il y a une grosse déception et à la fois une très très belle histoire qui s'est écrite autour de cet arrêt. Donc on compte sur vous pour que ça continue. Nous, on va continuer de suivre Sam hors course. Elle est positionnée sur la cartographie, sur le live Initiative Cœur. On peut la suivre. Elle continuera de donner de ses nouvelles. On continuera d'avoir des vidéos. Et voilà, c'est une aventure en solidaire qui remplace cette course en solitaire. Et je vous dis à la semaine prochaine.
I had a lot of fun. I'm super happy about my performance. I felt really good with my equipment. I loved the conditions, and yeah, I didn't do huge mistakes. I raced smart, and yeah, I did the job. I'm super happy.
Really fun event. It's so good to get some racing in at the end of the year, a year that we thought we wouldn't get much racing in. So yeah, it was really fun with the girls. It was a really big, in fact it's the biggest fleet we've had in ages, and a really good turnout, so it was really fun racing.
I'm really happy about my performance in this competition. I started with the two first day like really strong, and the other day was pretty hard for me. But I tried to keep smiling, and that's it.
Dean, we heard, I mean, you were clearly frustrated at something during your first race, giving away a lead when you looked so competitive. What was the issue in that first race specifically?
We just had a little bit of an issue with one of the foils. Just for some reason, it's not behaving the same as the other, and we just lost lift on one side in attack, and it happened again in the next race against Ben and the Ineos team. And it's just in the lighter conditions, it really magnifies the mistakes. If something isn't working perfectly, then it makes the boat very hard to sail.
Just looking ahead to tomorrow, Dean, I mean, how will you approach it? What's the setup?
Tomorrow, we're up against Jimmy and Francesco and the Linarossa team, so they showed like they were going pretty well today in this lighter breeze, and we sort of, from what we've seen up till now, they look strong in these conditions. So it's going to be a good challenge for us tomorrow to race them, and all going well, then we'll race the winner out of Ineos and Team New Zealand. We're definitely going out there with a really positive attitude. We're looking forward to another day of racing, because this will be the last time we get to race until it starts to count in January.
Jimmy, how good is it at this stage, with the whole Prada Cup ahead, to be going up against a defender in a race like that last race and looking, I mean, like a real contender?
No, it was nice. We had a really competitive, some lead changes. I think that's all you can ask for in a race against the defender, and I thought the boat was going well, and we got to see them in a different condition. Most of the training we've done, the practice racing's been on the top end. It was nice to see a change and to see, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of both teams.
Let's looking ahead to tomorrow. Just tell us the setup and I guess how Luna Rossa's going to approach it.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to tomorrow. I mean, it looks like probably similar conditions, maybe a little bit more breeze, which would be good. We had two really good races against Dean and the lads on American Magic yesterday, and could have gone either way, so we're expecting nothing more. We've got a long history of racing each other in this game. Yeah, I can't wait.
Ben, I mean, 2 more races out on the water, still lots to be ironed out. What positives can you take away from today? I mean, what have you learned?
It's hard to take too many positives away from a day like that. You know, as a professional sportsman and in a professional sports team, you know, we're here to try and win. And certainly when we have a day like that, in these lighter airs, we're struggling with the performance of the boat, and we've been talking about that for a while. But when you actually put it into practice for real in a race, that's tough. But, you know, like you said, we've got to learn from that and understand what the issues are, or how more importantly, how can we solve the issues. And we are, you know, believe me, behind the scenes, we're working incredibly hard to get the performance of this boat right. And we will, and we'll come back stronger.
Just a word about tomorrow. I mean, you know, what is the setup? I bet it's a bit of a thought at this moment, you know, but how will you approach it, and what learnings perhaps can you gather from it?
The forecast for tomorrow is for light airs, which, as we've seen today, is it's a struggle for us. So it'll be more about, again, what can we learn from the other teams? Perhaps what are they doing better than we are? What's the setup of the boat? And, you know, looking forward to the Challenger Series, which is absolutely key. It's when, you know, we're really racing for keeps. You know, what changes can we make to get the performance going?
Pete, it's not the Cup, it's the World Series. It's 3 days of racing, 3 very capable challengers. It's a step on the journey, but the team must feel it's a big step forward. How pleased are you with this win?
Yeah, I think it's been an incredible 3 days of racing. You know, not just what's been happening on the racecourse, but, you know, seeing how many Kiwis have been getting out to cheer it on. And, you know, I think looking around the racecourse, we have no idea how many boats are out there, but there must have been over 1,000. And, you know, just fully lined. You know, we came back here for the opening ceremonies and the prize givings. It's just been incredible to see how many Kiwis have been getting behind and supporting us. And, you know, I think there's been 120 people working, you know, pretty hard in the shed for the last 3 years to try and get us to the point where we've got a competitive boat and, you know, we can go and win yacht races. And, you know, I think we're, you know, incredibly excited by the fact we're, you know, able to do that. And we just want to say thanks to everyone for cheering us on and supporting us.
What's the mood in the base? I mean, how pleased are everybody that you're the form boat?
Yeah, I think, you know, the exciting thing for us is we feel like we've got plenty of areas we can improve. You know, we've definitely pushed the boundaries pretty hard in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways we feel like we've still got some big gains to come. And, you know, that's really what you have to aim at these things. You know, we're really aiming at a start line that's on the 6th of March. And, you know, although this event's a really cool opportunity to check in, you know, opportunity to figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are and what you need to work on over the next 3 months. But, you know, we've, you know, I think we've got a pretty exciting summer ahead.
What's the team's feeling on the challengers after these 3 days of racing?
Yeah, well, I think today, you know, we had great races with both American Magic and Luna Rossa. You know, it feels like Luna Rossa's probably slightly more optimised for the light air. You know, and American Magic's probably slightly better in the breeze, but, you know, seem to go pretty good across the range. You know, I think they've both got, you know, great boats. You know, I think obviously Ben's struggles a little bit in the lighter air, but I think he showed the other day he's not bad in the breeze. So, you know, it's pretty incredible to see how close the 4 teams are really with a new concept of rule.
Tomorrow it's not round robin, is it? It's, you know, it's absolutely head to head. How will you approach it?
Yeah, probably just like we approached today. You know, today we knew we pretty much had to go out there and win both races to try and win it, and, you know, that's the same way we approach every day. You know, it's something that, you know, you don't line up on a start line to not try and win a race. So that's what we'll be trying to do.
you know, there's been a fair amount of criticism on the starting of Emirates Team New Zealand. You know, how will you approach that, and perhaps personally, how tough's that been?
Yeah, we don't worry about it too much. It's something there's the same criticism of Bermuda, and you know, like I said, we're aiming at the America's Cup, not this event, and you know, we feel like we're learning a lot this week, and you know, we're pretty excited by the amount we can improve.